Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Maddie's Fun Community Conversations. Today we have a very exciting guest, and we're going to talk about access to care, which is a hot topic in the animal well-being field. My name is Christina Lee. I am a co-host today with the wonderful Shanye. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Shanye. I am the co-host with Christina today. Um, yeah, I'm really excited to have Ray on this call today and to learn more about access to care.
So we had a couple early attendees. So we asked our question of the day earlier on, but we are going to repeat it. If Shanya, you don't mind sharing that.
No, I absolutely don't mind at all. So, what are barriers to health equity that you have observed in your community? So, Christina, I know you touched on some, but did you want to give us some of those really quickly?
Yeah. And I think you and I um had similar experiences with like an invisible barrier exists, invisible boundary or line existing where one part of town has pet stores, vets, everything you need, spas for your animals, and then the other part has nothing, those deserts that we've experienced. I also mentioned just high costs of everything, high costs of veterinary care, specialist care, and behavior care too. Even hiring a dog trainer to help you get off on the right foot if you got a puppy or especially if you have problems, it's definitely tricky. And there's some good ones coming in through the chat as well. Oh, I love assumptions. That's meta, like that's like deep. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one that I don't think we heard yet. And
Mhm.
one that pops up quite a bit is transportation. I don't think many people consider how many people take public transportation, and getting your 90-pound dog to the vet or back home with public transportation is difficult. So I think that transportation is another big one as well. Lack of the affordability of it. So we're seeing lack of the options and the high cost of vet care. Um, yeah, these are great. Please keep these coming. Ooh, inclusivity measures, right? Language, big one. Translation services. We have stigma towards cats. I think all of these are great. Please keep these coming in the chat. And next, I will kick it over to Christina for national update.
All right. So on all of our Monday calls, we offer a time for anyone in the audience to unmute and share any national updates that they want to share with the group. If you do unmute, just try to keep it short and sweet so we can spend the bulk of our time on our main speaker's presentation. So please feel free to unmute yourself and share any updates. You can also put them in the chat if you prefer.
Hi, I'm Kristen from the Community Cats podcast. We have a TNR certification workshop coming up this weekend. It's Saturday from 2 to 4:30 Eastern time. And it's a certificate program that's designed to help newbies who have never trapped a cat before become not newbies kind of quickly so that they can go ahead and get out there and trap their cats. And it does have plenty of tips for people who are kind of the old pros and are on their thousandth cat, but there's always something new you can learn. I will put a link to that in the chat, and you can register up until the course starts. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, Kristen.
Hi, everybody. I'm a longtime listener, but first time sharer. I'm from House Rabbit Network in Massachusetts, and we just finished building and just got our occupancy certification for our low-cost spay and neuter clinic, which is pretty topical to today's
Yeah.
discussion because finding exotic care for rabbits, especially in the Northeast, is really challenging. You can get a bunny for about $10 at a local fair, but you bring your bunny who's spraying up your walls because they're not spayed or neutered to a vet clinic and you're charged. The estimate right now in Massachusetts is about $600 to $1,000 to spay or neuter your rabbit. Um, but with us, eventually in the coming months, it will be closer to about $250, which would be a little bit more accessible.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Lauren, do you have a website you can put in the chat yet or like a Facebook page?
I do. I'll share our website with you guys in the chat.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to remind you, Allison put the note in our um, uh, chat that this is the last week for the National Foster Survey, and we want to get everybody represented in there, and then we'll be sharing out the results. So if this is the last week, please take that survey if you would. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. The link for the survey is in the chat. If you scroll up, and I think we'll close for national updates for now. For unmuting, if you have any more you want to share in the chat, please do so. And Shanye will welcome our guest.
Yes, I am honored today to introduce the amazing Rachel Ray Williams, who is one of the best people in animal welfare, a great friend, a great employee, a great absolute everything. If you have not met Ray, go ahead and follow her on LinkedIn and all the good places. She's going to be discussing today with us access to care. So yes, Ray, if you want to go ahead, take it off, introduce yourselves, and tell us all the great things we need to know.
Thank you. That was so sweet and personal. I love that. So I am Rachel Ray. I am here today representing Spay Neuter Network in Texas. I am a board member. I'm going to drop the chat in there if you guys want to check out what we're doing. I also have done a lot of other stuff. Like right now, I'm also working for PetSmart Charities as a pet placement initiatives. So I'm combining two of my favorite things, access to veterinary care and pet placement. So I'm going to share my screen in a moment. So that's me when I was 8. And when I noticed community cats, we had this one cat named Marlena that lived at my grandma's house, well, my great grandma's house across the street. And she would have kittens every spring, and then we would all get kittens. So it was like a neighborhood thing. We took care of our community cats. It was not a issue, right? Everybody, wherever Marlena had her kittens, that was who was responsible for her at the time. And then we just all understood that. And this is how I got introduced into veterinary medicine, community cats, and just understanding the people pet relationship in my own community. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, so that's always strange when people hear you were really into pets in the middle of the city. I was. I call myself an innovative strategist and leader in the sectors of people, pets, and the planet. What I'm listening to right now is Kendrick Lamar. What I'm reading is Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. That book is full of gossip. It was like the best of times, the worst of times. And I was like, what was that all about? Because that's kind of how I feel right now. And I'm watching Severance. So at the end of this presentation, you can have a link to my LinkedIn, and you can follow me and we can chat and gossip as much as you want. Okay, let me see if I can go to my next slide. Okay, we'll skip this one. So this is the topic overview. I know that most people here are animal welfare or human and animal professionals, but what I'm going to kind of highlight here is for the people that are not in our sector. So really facing the facts about people and pets as a national crisis. We're going to talk about One Health and public health, an intro to social determinants of health terminology, establishing guiding principles and activities to strengthen social care. So this seems kind of out of our depth, but it's 100% in our lane. We just have to use existing programs, existing ideas to remix them to fix the work that we're doing. So facing facts. So when you look at this from a human and animal welfare perspective, we're looking at owner surrender reasons. But ultimately, these are reasons for family separation. So I'm not talking about, for this presentation, dangerous animals, all those other kind of things. I'm specifically talking about people and pets that are separated for reasons for the person. So a lot of these categories that you're looking at has nothing to do with the dog or the cat. A permanent life change, somebody had a baby. I mean, that's not the dog's fault. You can't afford the wellness. That has nothing to do with the dog. The housing, these are all people issues that play into why pets and people are separated. So when I look at this, this is really a heartbreaking
picture that we're painting. You know, when we look at all these reasons, people are incarcerated, people have relationships that end. And these are why we have pets in shelter. So when you think about it this way, it's like, what can I do to get ahead of this before pets end up at the shelter? Here's a couple of clippings from like the news that I've seen over the last like maybe 3 years. And it gives you a good sample of what people are saying about why pets and people can't be together. The newest one is facing shelter overcrowding and a downturn in animal adoptions. This report explores why US consumers may be reluctant to adopt companion animals. So while we're looking at this whole picture, like strays, owner surrender, like how do all these people components kind of play in? And when it gets to us in shelter or foster, what do we do? Why are these people here? And what can we do to keep those people, pets together and all those things, access to care? Because ultimately, all the stuff that we do is post-adoption support. So we have to make sure that we kind of have all these relationships in place in order to support pets and people. But what does One Health and public health have to do with us? Like, what does that have to do with us? For the most part, in animal sheltering, the primary reason for its development is to keep people safe from rabies, right? To hold dangerous dogs, to manage like raccoons and possums. It was never made to be a life-saving option. And One Health and public health lets us know that yes, shelter is important for some things, but it's so many other things that we can be doing outside the shelter to support our community members. So One Health, what is it? I've heard a lot about it. It's a unique interdisciplinary approach to human and animal healthcare, leveraging existing community resources to improve access to care for underserved audiences. That is what One Health is. It's just a combination of folks coming together to serve the full family. The dogs get what they need, the people get what they need, everybody leaves happy, and we're on our way. One reference that I like to refer to a lot is the One Health Clinic. A good example is they have shot clinics for pets. People can get their shots. You know, it's all one-stop shop because underserved people, like we talked about, don't necessarily have enough time to make 2 appointments. So to double do things at One Health will make things a lot easier. Public health. Public health promotes and protects the health of all people in their communities. Human health and animal health are closely intertwined. So we can't make life better for the cats if you don't make life better for the people. It's just impossible because our lives are so interchangeable that we have to make things better for all the species in our community in order for us to achieve health equity. So that was a lot of information, but it all makes sense. So bear with me, stay with me. So social determinants of health are the non-medical factors that influence health outcomes, right? Where we live, where we grow, where we worship, where we love, where we meet, all those things matter because that is an indication of who you are and going to be. I live in Detroit. It's a Black city. Most people have asthma because of the pollution. That's just what it is. And when you move further outside of the city, you don't have those environmental issues that you have in the inner city. So when we think about the conditions of why people are in this, it's all these things come into play that informs us of who we're going to be and who we are. And I'm just talking about the non-medical stuff, like other stuff. So the neighborhood that we built, the healthcare, the quality, the education, the social context, and the economic stability all informs the community. If you're missing one or two of these pieces, you're not going to have the same pathway to you don't have an equitable pathway to being healthy. You don't have an equitable pathway to be complete and to live your life like a normal person. So all this turns into Whatever's going on with that cat, that lady's going to be affected. She's going to be harmed just as much. If she lives in the center of Detroit where she has asthma because of the pollution, so do her cats. Like, so we cannot separate, like we're going to do things just to for the cats, or we're just going to do things just for the dogs, or we're just going to do things just for this certain amount of people. We have to do everything across the board because we can't, they're all intertwined. They're all dependent on each other. So when we look at these owner surrender reasons, we're looking at a way deeper social problem. We're looking at a huge social problem because we should have systems in place to help a person if they're, incarcerated. Like that should not be a big deal. We should be able to take their pets, place them in foster temporary homes till this person is able to resolve their challenges and then reunite those families. It should not be like, oh my God, it shouldn't be all that. All right. We should have ways to support folks. And just like people unable to afford their homes, like that is a serious problem, like why do we have to make all these changes and what people and pets can just stay in the homes that they're in right now? Let's see. I lost my mouse, y'all. Ah, hold on. Okay. Radical possibilities. So we're going to do a 1-minute reflection. What if every person and pet had a just and fair opportunity to achieve their highest level of health and well-being? How would our world change? So, as we think about the challenges that we have in our individual communities, but what if everybody had a just pathway? What if it was fair for everybody? What if what I want and what Shanye wants are totally different, and that's okay? But we both should have the same just fair, well, we should both have a just and fair opportunity to achieve our individual levels of health. Because wouldn't that just be awesome? Like everybody's just living a dream. So the guiding principles that I use to help me establish programs and systems, I kind of look at One Health, public health equity, and I put all those things together to give me boundaries about what I'm going to do. Right. So this is what I use to help me do my work. Hopefully, it's helpful for you to do your work. So I established systems, whether intentional or unconscious, or whether intentional or unconscious, that are fair and just so everybody can achieve their highest self. So creating individual pay plans for people to make sure that they get to where they want to be, super important to me. And it takes out all the guesswork. Like where do you want to be? How do you want to get there? And what can I do to support you in that journey? And it's nothing about me. It's all about the person and the pet. Listening, amplifying, supporting pets and people within socially at-risk populations moves us all forward. Just because you don't have a challenge, just because you don't feel a challenge, see a challenge, doesn't mean that the challenge doesn't exist. So, listening to people is super important, amplifying those people and supporting them. Another thing that I've been looking into, and I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm fully versed in this next thing, but it's really helping me think more about how I do things. And it's the principles of trustworthiness. So we talk about a lot, are these people trustworthy? Are we trustworthy? Like, am I trustworthy? I'm trying to help this person navigate a very delicate time in their life. They're losing their home or whatever that may be, but am I worthy of trust in this moment? And I think the self-evaluation of principle of trustworthiness is super important. I'm going to have a resource to this. It's a toolkit and all those things. It's a link in this presentation so you can start examining your own trustworthiness. Because I think when we talk about trust, it's only one-sided. Like, do I trust you? But it's like, do they trust me? And I think that's something that we should ask ourselves more often. We are legacy people, right? We've worked in these organizations for a really long time, and you don't necessarily know about the people who came before you, who wore a uniform before you, who was working the adoption desk before you. So you really have to think about, am I even trustworthy to support this person through this change? So another thing that I thought will be helpful when I'm building programs is looking at the 5 healthcare sector activities to better integrate social care. And social care is pretty much including the person in the care that they're receiving, right? Is built on a community form, patient-centered practice. So I use that as another guiding principle for myself, to make sure that I'm doing stuff for individuals and communities, because it's hard to distinguish what activities or what actual actions are you supposed to be doing. When I do consults and when I talk to communities and when I'm talking to people, they're always like, what do I do? Like, what activity or action do I do to address this? And hopefully this kind of puts everything in buckets for you, so you can kind of figure out where you are on the spectrum of activities for social care, and then what things you should actually be doing. So I'm going to show you this in a couple of bubbles, but it's going to all come together, so don't be nervous. So these are the activities to strengthen social care and healthcare integration. One of the things I think is super, super important is, and that was not included, is acknowledgement. I think in order to address a systematic issue, you have to acknowledge that things may not be fair and things may not be just, right? You have to acknowledge that's an action that I have to do, on a personal level before I can really move forward. And then you have to be aware. Got to be aware of all this stuff. You got to acknowledge these challenges exist. You have to be aware of them. You have to adjust systems and assist people to get them where they want to be. You have to align things and you have to advocate. So this is a lot of different buckets, but when you put everything together, this is how it looks, right? The dark blue circles are for communities. The light blue circles are for individuals. And the one in the center is mostly for yourself. You could be doing all these things all the time, or you're just doing one of those things, but all these things have to happen in order for people and communities to move forward. So you don't just really pick a spot, you're just kind of in a spot and you kind of keep working all those other pieces. If you're good at advocacy, but you're not good at assistance, then find another organization that can do that thing. If you're good at spreading awareness and letting people know all those things, but you have a partner that's excellent at recruiting volunteers, then all these things kind of have to happen together. I'm gonna skip this one. Oh, well, I do. So when I put all this stuff together, when I add the guiding principles to placement, it's like, what does this mean? So in a state in which everyone has a fair and just opportunity to engage in human and animal well-being. So this is basically saying everybody can be a foster, everybody can be a doctor, everybody can be a volunteer, everybody can help. Nobody has guardrails, right? Everybody can be included in this thing. So when I look at our workplace and our policies, I have to acknowledge whether intentional or unconscious placement practices can be unfair and unjust. All right. And what I do in my organizations and when I talk to people is discuss and examine existing systems that impacts a family's ability or inability to access pet companionship. Those are the first 2 things I do, because without these things, you're really kind of lost. Like you're really just kind of on a hamster wheel. And once you kind of understand like these 2 things, it makes it a lot easier to figure out where you are on the spectrum. So a huge chart. And I save plenty of time for discussion because I know this is we know all this stuff, but sometimes when it gets new words, it can get confusing. So um, I put this chart together for people that may be a little bit more visual. So when you're looking at the far left-hand side, I think this is you guys left. Yeah, the far left-hand side, adjustment, assistance, alignment, and advocacy. Those are your buckets of activities. So some of y'all are in one place or another place. And adjustment and assistance is just really for individuals. And those examples of those things will be to reduce the need for in-person adoption, foster to placement, and virtual matchmaking. Those are ways to get beyond the shelter to improve outcomes. You can expand the hours of service. What about a night clinic? People get out at 6 p.m. What about 7 to 9 before it gets dark? You know, it's a lot of things we could do in order to adjust our own systems to support the people in our communities. Assistance. Assistance is for individuals. And this is one thing that I am going to eliminate all the fees associated with return to owner. It's literally, this is one thing that really upsets me because we want people to stay with their pets. So why would we charge them? If your dog is lost, why would I charge you to give it back to you? You know, it just really, that's one thing that I feel like we can spend a lot more time discussing, but it's one of those things, if we really care about people and pets together, eliminate the fees. Provide timely and affordable costs for care for people and pets. So those are the things that you can do. And invest in diverse staffing and materials. You know, if you live in a community where they speak multiple languages, all those, why aren't those people working in your building? It's just always like disconnected to me. Alignment is for communities. Invest in community programs, mobile clinics, and share volunteers. If you have a robust volunteer program, but you know another organization in a community that does not, is there anybody interested in doing both? Why not? Why can't one training class cover 2 shelters? Why can't we just all work together, you know? And because this is all our home and we all have a responsibility for it. And then lastly, advocacy is mostly for communities. It's to work to promote policies that fundamentally change transportation infrastructure within community. So that means that people can get on the bus with their dog. What's the big deal? You know, people can get on the bus with their dog. Your community is not limited on being car dependent. We all have fair and just housing. And that's how we keep people and pets together. That's how we support access to care. You know, it's all one conversation, just in a lot of different ways. So what's our call to action? And if you haven't watched Hey Arnold, you should tune in. They were really radical cartoons. Design systems to support fair and just systems, realize, we want to do things that make it fair for everybody. I don't want the same opportunities as you. I want opportunities that are for me to get to where I'm going with the least possible delay. And I want that for everybody. I don't just want that for myself. So examine those systems in your community, examine those systems in your organization and say, is this the way we can make this fair? Just, is it fair? Ask somebody who is not regularly involved in those conversations and see if they feel included in what you're doing. It makes it so much easier when you have more people at the table willing to discuss a challenge and talk about ways to address that challenge. You have so many people that can help, and I think we underutilize the individuals that we have. I save so much time for us to chat here now, but I have a lot of resources and I have, oops, let me go back. I have a lot of resources. Do I have any questions in my chat? In the chat?
You
Should I stop,
do.
should I stop sharing my screen so I can lock in?
So you can see everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Allison posted those links in the chat.
Ah,
So
thanks.
they have access. And then also everyone, this will be posted in the forum. So you'll have access to that then. But yes, we do have some questions. Our first
Yeah.
question comes from Anita. Do you have any way of getting vets to help with animal care in the programs?
That's the help. What you mean? What you mean by help?
I don't know if they want to elaborate on that or not, but we'll give them a couple of seconds before I jump in.
Yeah. What I first think is students, but I need a little bit more information to help guide that answer.
Let's see.
Well, Anita also asked another question.
Mhm.
She asked, how would you go about connecting with the healthcare folks for the human end? So how are you uniting, yeah, the human side and the animal?
Excellent question. I usually just go to public health. I'm like, hey guys, I have some areas in which I'm interested in visiting. What's you guys' schedule? And usually public health will let you come. If you have access to the internet, you can usually search your local public health department and you can see where people are under vaccinated, and all those other things. And just checking into your network. Is any doctors there? Are there any small associations or community groups that are interested in a subset of people that you are interested in? So that's usually where I go to start.
In regards to the first question, like veterinarians, we have a hard time I mean, there's a lot in the area. Most
Hmm.
of them don't want to volunteer their time for even doing TNR. What do
Hmm.
you what do you do?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, sure.
Why are you asking them to volunteer instead of paying them?
Would be that our our association is not that big that we have the money to pay a vet
Hmm.
to, I mean, we have one that through adoption first that she, I mean, we can do a lot there, but then there's so many other vets. It's like, why, how do you approach them? How can you get them on board to help with even the simplest of TNR?
Yeah. I mean, veterinarians, that's a specialized skill, right? That you can't just get anybody to be a veterinarian. So investing in compensation for those people that will do that work may be the right investment for you in your organization. Even if it's just starting with cat neuters, because that's a relatively quick and least expensive, probably surgical procedure that's out there. So I would see if you can talk to your funding folks and see if you can get some money together to pay a veterinarian for a day, a couple of times out of the month. But it's definitely some opportunity there with the right incentive.
Thank you.
Hmm. What else everybody's got? Let's be nosy. Anybody want to share some gossip secrets? What's happening in your town?
We do have more questions that came through in the chat, Ray, if you're
Yeah.
excited. Okay. So
Mhm.
how can we leverage corporations and businesses in the community to help promote and invest in the activities? Is there a model for this
Mm,
already that can be replicated?
no, you just got to talk to people. I wish I would have known like 20 years ago, this is all about relationships. Most of your opportunities in life are going to come through regular relationships. So reaching out to those people and laying out clearly what your mission is, what you're focused on, and how can people help you? Because people are like, what can I? they're always asking me for help, but they don't know what to ask me. So it's like you need to really be clear about what you want that individual to do and how this benefits the whole community. So asking if you have a coffee shop and can I put a donation cup here for anybody who spends $3? Can the change roll over to support my organization? And you're not going to be able to just walk in the coffee shop and do that. You need to go there a couple times. You need to see if it's dog friendly. You need to meet the owner. You need to do some research. And that is really the best way that I have gotten to anybody's business, is kind of doing the research first, having those conversations, seeing if we have mutuals, and then going from there. But relationships really matter in all work that we do, because it's all people.
Thank you. Yeah, I put that question in because I live in the Seattle area, and so we're home to
Oh, nice.
tech companies. So,
Mhm.
for my nonprofit, I'm always thinking like, how can I get like Amazon and Microsoft, they're both
Mm.
here engaged in things that I want to focus on related to canine cancer, inclusivity and veterinary care,
Mm.
financial assistance, support groups. Like there's so many things that we're working on, and I feel like they would be great advocates. And in what you shared today in your presentation, I think some of the things that you shared as outcomes or activities to focus on, they could help with. They could provide some of the funding or some of the
Mhm.
push, and use their name and sort of their, I think, power and influence,
Mhm.
to make those things happen. So thank you.
Yeah, and you can always, most of those large organizations usually have a nonprofit. I mean, they usually have like a grant cycle. So for example, Uber used to do transportation for dogs and people. So you can get a grant for like $5,000 to transport 100 people to the vet. That's what you ask Uber to do. So you just kind of figure out what are they, because it's going to be so much harder to convince people to come your way. You're going to have to go their way and then find something that overlaps. So even if you're in Seattle, you need to maybe talk to your neighbors. Where do you work? What are you doing? And then already use that existing connection to get to where you want to go. Who else, Shanye? Anybody else got good questions?
Jory has had a question. Jory, do you want to? I saw you take put your video on, and I wonder if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, I was just curious about I love the idea of working with public transit to make it so that pets can go on buses, but also
Mhm.
thinking about people who have allergies and how do we kind
Mhm.
of find a balance between making sure that there's space in public, both for people who have pretty severe allergies and people with pets. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
I believe that we all should have an equitable and just way. So the existing transportation system does not work for everybody. So we will have to completely reimagine what that would be. So do we need subways? Do we need I don't know where you are, but do we need subways? Do we need trains? Is it like a pet person bus that rolls on Tuesdays? It's so many. This is this presentation. This is the second time I've done this one, so it's a little short. But it's about using your imagination, because what we have now is not sufficient. So you can't you got to kind of get rid of that and think about, if we did have a just system and it was fair, what would transportation look like? What would be in a walkable community? Would there even be cars? Think about, get really creative about what it could be, because the future is right now. It's happening, and we gotta get in it. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jory, and thank you, Ray. And I think Augusta and Rochelle had similar questions. I think you answered. Just be creative and think outside the box.
Yeah, just do something radical.
Um, Shania, do you want to take the next question, or you want me to take it?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next question comes from Marla. How do you find additional fosters to help people in transition with their animals? We struggle on finding fosters for our homeless pets.
Um, I have a question about your question. Tell me about your volunteer. Who said that? Marla? Is Marla available to speak on the camera? I mean, on the phone? Hi.
Yes, hi. Sorry.
So yeah, tell me about your volunteers and what's going on. What do you need?
So we just have a hard time finding fosters,
Mm-hmm.
especially for our homeless pets. So we have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of prioritize the fosters we have for those homeless pets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do events where we try to recruit. We do a lot on social media trying to recruit. We've had campaigns with posters, radio ads, things like that. We just have a hard time finding them. And so I was wondering if there was any best practices that you've heard about when you've been, working on these programs to try to get more
Yeah.
of those people to help, especially the people in transition, because I would really like people to help people keep their animals.
Great question. Can I ask you one more question about your application? How long is it?
My foster application?
Yes.
Actually, we have a very short application. It's just email, phone number, and then we call them and talk to them and ask them questions that we would normally have on an application because we don't
Mm.
want to scare them. Um, so we decided, because I used to be a foster, and when you see some of those foster applications, you're like, oh my God, do I need to like pee in a cup for you guys too? Um,
That's what I was
so
wondering. I was trying to get to that, but you've clarified.
Yeah, so
So,
we chose to make sure it was very simple and that we just asked them questions in person instead.
So what I've seen that was helpful is a video that I can watch on my own time,
Hmm.
as a foster volunteer. So you do that couple of questions, name, what kind of things are you interested in, and then an automatic system will train me through a video. So you're gonna like know who and what and all those kind of things. But the easier the process is, the better results. I was just at like I can't remember where I was exactly, but they have a foster program where people leave their jobs during the middle of workday on lunch, pick up some dogs, pick up a book bag, go to lunch, they get the dogs adopted, and then they come back and like it's the end of their workday, they've gotten two dogs adopted. It is you have to make the experience for people episodic so they can do it once in a while. Some people are interested in doing only holidays, some people are interested in doing only weekends, but sometimes you have to figure out who your audience is and what will work for them, and make programs that will work for them. Because if you've been doing this for 20 years and nothing's changed, you might need to reevaluate that. And if
Hmm.
you're looking for a younger group of folks, I'm gonna put it in the chat, but the Canadians have a really good volunteer playbook that really helps me think through those kind of things. But the one thing they said was make it episodic so people can drop in and do it when they want. Make it for families so parents and kids and girlfriends and boyfriends can come together and pick up dogs and make it episodic. And make it so people know when it's going to end, right? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
foster and it's like this might be a year. I want just because you're really going to need a couple weeks. Take some pictures, put this on social media, go to these 4 bars, the dog should be adopted, and just keep it moving. So I hope that helps.
It does, yeah. I love the link too, so thank you for getting me that.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that. What else? What else are we asking?
And Marla, there are a lot of suggestions from fellow attendees in the chat.
Yes.
Look at that.
Community of practice.
So
Thanks,
this
everybody.
this might be a last question looking at the time, but Emily asked a pretty deep one. She said,
Ooh.
so many animal services professionals, volunteers, donors, and advocates are really focused on work and conversation. That is about the right decision for the animals, continuing to fault human individuals for systemic problems. How do we expand this conversation for our colleagues and community members who are deeply embedded in a savioristic view of the work?
Wow, who said that?
Emily Wood.
Oh, Emily, we need to talk. Okay, so I think having hard conversations is part of the deal. Like asking people why do you even think that? Like, where is that? Because some things that people say about people in crisis is sometimes so disheartening. It's like, why are we making this challenging for this person? And I think it's okay to push back on those people that are making it difficult. It's like, you don't have to be that way. And I'm going to show you that this is going to be different. And Emily, if you're not in a position to make those changes at your organization, you have power and influence no matter where you are. And no matter what position that you're in, no matter where you are in your career, you have that power and you have that influence. So how do you use that to move forward? Because those ideas that some people do and some people don't deserve, the people who think that, they need to be left in the past. You cannot work with those people sometimes. And that is okay. You got to work with people who are interested in working with you, who are not going to do something so harmful that it ruins your reputation. But you also have to think about repair and working through relationships that haven't been great, but leaving an opportunity for repair. And I think that is where I try to balance it, and giving people stuff to read on their own. Like, if you really care about changing, you would go to the library. Like, literally, like, this is all adult conversations. I can't make you be different, but you can make yourself. So it's like, why people shouldn't be relying on you to help them change their mind. Like, if you're relying on me to make you change your mind, I'm never going to do that. So you need to make up your own mind about how you treat people. And I think that's the way I approach things. But we can always talk online later, Emily, if you want to talk more. Yeah, we got to do our own work. It's like, I'm not here to convince you. I got other stuff to do. I got 50 things. I'm an aunt. Zeba's here. Like, I got too much things to do. We got about 12 minutes.
No, we're right at time. Right on time we got like 2 minutes. So I don't know if we have time for another question.
Oh,
Let me see, what was the next one? Yeah, I think we are timed out, but thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Ray, as always. Blown
thank you.
away. Super, super thankful for your presentation today. It looks like we have a lot of questions in the chat that you didn't get to. So those will be kicked over to the Maddie's forum. Thank you, Allison, for sharing that QR code in the link. Make sure y'all join us over there where Rachel will be answering questions that didn't get answered and questions that you still may have.
Yeah.
Lots of thank yous coming in the chat.
Thank you, everybody.